You're listening to Unlocked, Your Career by Design with Samantha Florence, Fortune 100 executive, billion-dollar business leader, and founder of Powerhouse Code. Here, you'll discover how to build authority, attract opportunities, and lead with authentic presence. If you're ready to claim your spotlight and step into your next level, you're in the right place. Let's unlock your career by design. If you've ever started a new job, this episode is for you. Congratulations! You just landed a new job, and chances are, at the moment, this is the job of your dreams. And I always say, technically, it's not a job, it's a role, it's an assignment. And you probably have gone through the grueling interview process, the application process, thinking about, am I getting the job? Didn't I get a job? And the recruiters are not getting back to you, but you made it. You landed your fabulous, fabulous new role. Now what? So many professionals I talk to, the first thing they say is, I have so much to learn. The first 3 months, I'm going to be in learning mode. It's something completely different than I've done before, and so on and so forth. Now imagine you step in your first day of your new role and you go in with the mindset of, I have so much to learn. If that's you or that has ever been you, how about pausing and thinking, do I actually have a lot to learn? Did they hire me to learn a lot, or did I hire me for my background, my experience, and my skills? Because imagine what happens when you shift your mindset to, yes, I have a lot to learn because it's a different sector perhaps, or a completely different company with new processes, with new regulations, with new colleagues. But what happens when you acknowledge and accept that you have a lot to learn, but actually you have a lot to bring? You have a lot to give. You might be new to the organization. You might be new to the role, to the sector, to the function, whatever it is. It might feel like a completely new area, but are you forgetting your 10 years of experience you already have? 20 years of experience, perhaps? And so if you're just starting a role or you're new to a role, my challenge to you is to eliminate that mindset of, oh my God, I have so much to learn. Yes, you have a lot to learn, but you have way more to bring. And when you start focusing on what am I bringing to this role? How can my background, my experience benefit my coworkers, my organization? How does it start to feel for you? That mindset of, I have so much to learn versus I have so much to give and I have so much to bring. See the difference? Feel the difference? So by now, you have probably realized, okay, I actually have way more to bring than to learn. So let's go there. First thing is, you're new to the organization. You have a lot to bring. So how do you go about that? How do you go about sharing your experience in a way that does not feel two things? You don't want to come off as you're proving yourself, and you also don't want to offend people because they have been there way longer and there's a certain way of doing things, and here you are coming in, marching in, wanting to change everything. So first, let's zoom in on the show-offs. Have you ever had a coworker who just started new and it was extremely clear that they were trying to prove themselves, like the show-off that they are? That's not what you want, and that's not what I'm talking about. Okay. So by the end of this podcast, you're going to know exactly how to march in without being a show off and showing your true value. The reason they hired you in the first place. They didn't hire you because they thought that when you learn all the things, then you would be good enough. They hired you because of your background and skills, because you have something to bring to your organization. So anyway, you don't want to be a show off. That's number one. The second thing is, depending on the organization, right? If you're coming in an organization that has a lot of people that have been there for a long time, it's extremely hard to change the current way of thinking, the current way of doing things. And so to avoid being the person that comes in news and want to change everything, it's very important to be sensitive of the dominant culture and those coworkers who have a lot of influence. And in Elevate You, we work on a power map to really map on the power dynamics of the department of your organization. But one thing is always to understand, okay, who are the people who have a lot of influence here? Because as you start a new role at a new organization or in a new department, then it makes a lot of difference if you understand the power dynamics, if you understand who are those coworkers who have a lot of influence and who the team looks up to. Because it's important to build those relationships first. So as you go into the new role, and by now you know that it's not only about learning more, it's actually about giving and bringing your experience and your background already. And to make it very specific and very tangible, there's 3 areas that I always recommend to focus on. Number 1 is business and organization. What do you bring to the business and organization? Number 2 is team. What do you bring to the team? And number 3 is capabilities and future. How are you going to lead this organization forward? And so today I want to talk about the team specifically, because this is one of the most underrated areas. People come in, they focus more on the job description, all the bullets on the job description, the operations, the task. But as a director, as a leader, you have a team usually doing the operations. And if you don't have a team doing operations and you're the one doing everything from strategy to operations to processes, that's okay too. But it's how do you make sure that you can flex from the bigger picture to the details, from the details to the bigger picture. That is the muscle that is most beneficial to strengthen. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Anyway, coming back to team, because today we're talking about team. Team. So many professionals go in and they think about their strengths and their competencies from a professional perspective. The thing is, as you start getting to know your team and your team starts to get to know you, they want to know who's the person behind their resume. And so many people go in, including myself in the beginning, talking about all my gold stars, my achievements, my highlights, and my profile, what I have done, what my experience is. But people actually want to get to know you. Who are you behind the polished resume and LinkedIn profile? Because that's where people connect. Are you an end person who have lived in different countries, for example? Or were you in the military? I once had a coworker who was in the military and he always told us the most exciting stories of his time in the military. And I noticed that the team really bonded with him and the relationships grew stronger of those experiences that he shared. So it wasn't about that he was really great at scenario planning. He was really great at stakeholder management. It was of his time in the military. And then I had another colleague who many people bonded with her because she could speak 5 languages. How great and special is that? And so when you go in, like there's usually an announcement email sharing all the fantastic things that you've done, the turnarounds, leading company to the future, double-digit growth, you know what I'm talking about, the whole shebang. But who is that person behind the fabulous LinkedIn profile and resume? And especially when you are a leader, when you are a director, senior director, VP, C suite, the team, the talent, they don't necessarily connect with those highlights and those achievements that feel out of reach for them at this moment. They connect with, tell me more about you behind the polished profile. How did you get there? And this is something I noticed. So on LinkedIn, actually, and when I'm telling my story to people who don't know me, because I used to tell my story like it was a climb to the top, let's say. That it was so once I was a manager and then I got promoted to director and then I did 3 roles and then before you know it, I was a senior director. So I got 5 promotions in 7 years, yada yada yada. And I started noticing that people could not relate and could not connect. Because from where they're standing, it seems like too far fetched. And once I started sharing how many times I got rejected in interviews, and that before every promotion, there were 3 rejections, or that once I was the interim senior director and I still had to apply, that's when people start to lean in because people connect with the stories of challenges and struggles. Because behind every polished LinkedIn profile, there are struggles, there are challenges, and that's what people connect over. Now, you might be thinking that I'm going off on a tangent, and I'm not. I'm coming back to the team. And if I take myself an example and the clients that I have guided to Elevate You, it's the ones that are successful as leaders are not the ones that are Margaret Thatcher. So my mom actually used to call me Margaret Thatcher because I was very business-like. I was very direct. I did not let anything from my personal life, nobody at work. I kept personal and work completely separate. Nobody knew who the Sam was behind the work persona. And once I started to lower that barrier, lower that wall, and let people in and who I am, that's when I saw teams, professionals started to warm up with me. And that's actually when my career accelerated because I wasn't another robot at work, focusing only on my competencies and my skills, but I was a human. I was a person who had a personality, who had a vision, who had a flavor. And most important of all, when I lowered that barrier, my teammates started to come to me in a way that was very different. They started to trust me and they came with all their things, like the good, the bad, the ugly. But you know what? At the end of the day, how many hours do you spend in the workplace? Right? So you have to lower your barrier. So coming back to starting a new job, starting a new role, thinking that you have so much to learn and maybe not a lot to contribute in the beginning. Nothing is further from the truth. When you're listening to this podcast, that tells me that you are a leader, no matter what your title is. So start showing up as one. And what leaders do is they connect with people, they connect with their team beyond their competencies, beyond their skills, beyond their title. And so as you think about you're starting a new role, and one of the elements to focus on, like I said before, is team and relationships. So not only your team or your peer team that you're in, but peer and relationships. Start to think about how can you create a stronger bond, not only with your team, whether that's your direct reports or your peers, but also the key decision makers in your company. Because you're coming in with a different perspective, and different perspective is good. It keeps everybody sharp and things fresh. But it's important to know who the decision makers are, who are going to help you on your journey as you onboard to start making your impact bigger. And so team and relationships want to focus on. And in the next episodes, I'm going to deep dive more on business and organization and capabilities. Okay? So to close off with one action for the week. And if you're not starting a new role, there's never not a good time to reinvigorate your current role. And so as you think about team and relationships, who is one person that you can connect with this week, the next 7 days, over something that is not about a deliverable, a work deadline, but truly connect with that person? And then let me know how it went. I look forward to reading your DMs and your emails. All right, I will see you in the next episode. You have been listening to Unlocked Your Career by Design with Samantha Flores. If today's episode sparked something, here's your next step. Follow the show and leave a 5-star review. That's how we reach more ambitious women ready to break barriers. And if you know a colleague or friend who needs this, share it with them, because lifting one woman lifts us all. Until next week, keep owning your spotlights.